Hi, my name is Angela Bolin, and I'm InterVarsity's campus minister for graduate and faculty students at the University of Houston. I'm so delighted to be back with you as we kick off another episode of Body, Soul, and Spirit, but this time we're going to be addressing Anxiety and Responsibility, Part 1. I have guest speakers on with me on today, RJ, who is in the health profession, fitness coach Marcel Turner, who are both going to talk to you about what anxiety does to our body physically, how can we prevent anxiety from taking over, what are some things that we can practice and implement in our everyday lives, and more. Get ready, take notes, but most of all, reach out. We're here to help and to make sure that you get through your midterms and the rest of your year successfully. Well, thank you. I'm so delighted to have both of you here with me on today. As RJ mentioned, last month we talked about stress and transition. And so we know many of you, whether you were faculty or students, it was a change for what you were doing from the summer to the fall. And so how are you supposed to cope with that? How do transitions affect you? What stress levels go up, what stress levels get affected when you're in transition is what we talked about. And it's all recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel. So visit Campus Minister Angela to see that video. But today we're going to talk about anxiety and responsibility. Many of you are in midterms. I had students even text me today, can you say a prayer for me? I'm about to take my midterm. And so because you're in midterms, we know that that is a way or an example of being anxious. You're trying to prepare, you're trying to make sure you do well. You know, this is a great marking point for you. And so naturally, we can become anxious because we're trying to take care of this responsibility. So on today, I'm going to have these health experts talk to you about anxiety. What does that look like? And again, this is from the body perspective. So I'm going to first start with RJ asking, give us a little definition and separate out for us the difference between stress and the difference between anxiety.
At the end of the day, there are a lot of small stressors and triggers that we can have throughout our lives that will create a little bit of discomfort. Okay. But the difference between stress versus the anxiety, they actually work together. But anxieties kind of happen, they're more psychological at times. They're more, you have you have the stress, the triggering event, but then you start kind of emphasizing or overthinking. Or a great example of this is you're in the middle of your midterms. You know that you have the potential to do well. You've been studying, you have your faith, you have all these things that you've been doing throughout the year, semester to prepare you for this time. And you're pretty confident that you're going to do well. However, you'll have those moments where you will just say, oh, wait, but what if this one thing ends up being a problem? What if I didn't study that section enough? When you start highlighting those things, that's when your anxiety starts shifting. That's when stressors become more of an anxiety factor. And so it's very important to, in the society, we all want to do well, but we have to make sure we kind of ease up on ourselves when it comes to the anxiety level. And when it comes to, if I do this on this test, it's not the end of the world, even though it feels like it. Trust me, I've been there. You have to tell yourself that it's going to be okay. You go into those situations and you create those small things. They're actually going to accelerate and become a big, you're going to experience a lot of physiological problems associated with that. And we'll cover that later. But basically, they roll into each other. The more chronic stress you have, you're going to create some anxieties and tensions and things. And your anxiety, when you develop these, you know, over time, there can be really tiny, small ones that you're overthinking while you're studying. They are going to shift over and become a chronic stress. So they work together, but it's one's more of an actual triggering effect. And then the other is a highlight, an emphasis on that triggering effect. And the level at which you put emphasis on it becomes a problem, becomes a, I don't want to go too far because we have our things. We don't, because we're also going to discuss anxiety attacks.
Right.
So.
Right. You know, just to add, just making sure that the differentiation between the stress and anxiety is making sure that you know the difference between the two. And then that way you can addressed accordingly, because everyone's anxiety, we talked about this yesterday as well, anxiety levels, stress levels have a different range, right? So you may be overly stressed or more, maybe over anxious about a situation or the test that's coming up. So I think key thing, just what I would add is just recognizing what it is so that you can address it as such.
Thank you. Yeah, we want you to understand, and if you watch the video from last week, you're going to see those, like she made a great point. You know, there's a difference, there's a transition from your stress or your stressor to your anxiety. And so on today, as we look at anxiety, she's already given us a great example. You are overthinking it. I wanted us to kind of go into physically what happens to our body. What are some effects that you see because now you've allowed yourself to become anxious? And you may not even quite know how to calm yourself down. We're going to talk about how to rectify that. But what are some signs? What are some physical effects that students, faculty even may have experienced because now they've moved into this state of anxiety?
One thing we mentioned also is that once you have reached that certain state, it's very important to understand how you do address it. Again, you have the different levels, different degrees. And so like Sister RJ mentioned about, something that could become chronic and over a period of time. And then all of a sudden something may hit you and you're like, where did this come from? Or where did I, develop this? And from a physical standpoint, one thing we mentioned also is not only being aware of what's going on, but in my realm, exercise, nutrition, those combinations of things that you want to be preventive in anything that you're involved in, especially when it comes to something that could affect your health. And so from my standpoint, being on the fitness side, being a trainer, is making sure that you have the maintenance throughout the duration of time and not just waiting until something happens or something comes up, that you try to correct it or rectify that. Such as life, as you get older, you kind of realize those things and you try to ward those things off as much as possible. So from a physical standpoint, physical fitness, the maintenance of that is very key and will be one of your warriors that you can have on your side to fight against some of this anxiety and stress.
I have to highlight that because that has been one of my go-tos. Anyone ask me, what do you do? I tell them training and fitness and walking, it's my coffee. Some people, I need to get up and I need to do coffee. I have to train for the purposes of not physically how I want to be. It's actually how I feel. So I tell people that my results in, I'm sure he can say the same thing it's the bigger picture is how you're feeling. So it helps with a lot of coping mechanisms while you're in the middle of all the studying. It also, on the chemical side, will allow you to function more. Your brain, you waste so much energy, not waste, you exert a lot of energy, 30% of your energy when you're studying. You got to remember to go take those breaks, go give your body some stimulation, go give it some more blood flow, all those things. Because when we're stressed out or when we have anxiety, you're creating blockages that actually prevent you from focusing. So one of the symptoms I personally had was I couldn't focus. I couldn't think. I would sit there and I would be trying to study, and then I'm panicking on a material or section. I don't know this very well. Well, once I go take my walk, once I go calm down, I don't have that blockage. So I highly encourage you that there are many moments where I'm sure you're just like, let me lock up and just do as much studying as possible. Sometimes it's very important for you to take those breaks, get that mental clarity, and reset, because there's a lot of chemical changes, processes that happen when you create those blockages, when you have that anxiety. There are different systems that you're actually impacting, including inflammation, including just a lot of things that contribute to other disease that you really have to try to acknowledge the anxiety, but also figure out your way to shift how you're going to deal with it. And I know in extreme cases, that may be a little bit tougher to handle. So, but ultimately, watch it when you have blockages when you're studying. Watch it when you're panicking and you feel like everything is getting tight. Your body is telling you before anything just gets crazy and hits the fan, go stop, take a break.
Yeah.
I highly encourage you to do that. I wish I would have done that more.
Agreed.
Thank you. Those are some really clear signs. You know, the lack of being able to focus, the lack of, or your body tightening up. I remember personally, I think I was a freshman or either a sophomore, my mouth would not stop forming saliva. It just kept forming saliva over and over. And it was like the weirdest thing, but I had no idea I was experiencing some form of anxiety. And so you want to just be kind of paying attention to your body when things abnormal, of course, are happening. That's a sign. And so they're giving you right now some great ways to handle that. But it's something that you want to be aware of. It's not something you just want to press through. You want to make sure you take those steps that are needed. Yesterday, we also spoke a little bit about long-term and short-term goals, handling your anxiety. And so I'm going to let fitness coach Marcel tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you again. So we broke it down from a long-term, short-term situation based on, for example, if you're in the middle of studying and you have to take the test the next day or the next 2 days, and that's kind of a moment that may be a shorter term. Speaking more of the longer term is, again, what I mentioned earlier about the preventive maintenance that you can practice. That gives you a little bit more wiggle room, if you will, instead of leading up to that moment from a short-term anxiety standpoint. We're all going to have anxiety. We're all going to have stress. And as the sister RJ mentioned about, some people have it different than others. Depends on your environment, depends on what you're used to. But again, going back to the short-term compared to the long-term, be very mindful, as Sister Bolden mentioned as well. Pay attention to those things that happen here and there, here and there, here and there. It's not like overnight something happens. Very rarely that may happen, but in the sense of comparing the long term to short term, a lot of this stuff we can prevent. And so that's what our focus is, making sure that you're mindful. You talk about the diet, you talk about nutrition, you talk about fitness. So those are the longer term scenarios that you want to pay attention to compared to something that just pops up. Because as Sister RJ mentioned, when the short term comes up, it may put you at risk. It's a little bit more dangerous, if you will. So the longer term hashtag turn fitness into a lifestyle is for more the longer term compared to the short term.
Let's go ahead and bring some closure to this and get ready for our next panel. Before we leave, I know we talked about getting the exercise, taking a break. Are there any additional things, number one, to help students realize, or let's just kind of back up even with preventative. So I know we're right in the middle of midterms. It may be too late, but maybe we can exercise this for finals. What are some preventative things in an academic setting that, let's start with students, that they can do in order to make sure they help reduce or totally eliminate anxiety?
I'm going to go in two different directions. One thing I think is simple to do is to make sure you don't isolate yourself in the middle of your studies and you find the right circle. You don't need very many. Doesn't have to be, masses of 10, 20. Find you one or two good people. Make sure you can kind of confide in them throughout these studies. And I just do not isolate yourself. So make sure you find that community. And then the other thing that I'm going to emphasize on the other side, because I'm on the lab side, if you have time or if you have the means and the availability to do so, I highly encourage you to go get basic laboratory testing to understand what is going on with you chemically. When I was studying and I went to go get my testing done, and one of my physicians that I was working under at the time, he said, "Hey, you need to go get your vitamin D checked. You're always sleepy. You're always tired. There's something going on with you." And I said, "Vitamin D? My being tired, what does that have to do with anything?"
Yeah.
I had none.
Wow.
I did not develop it. There's something in me that I don't produce it. So I need it. So it's
Wow.
very important that while you're studying, just the basics, go get those done so they can kind of enhance what you're doing.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah.
Great advice. Totally agree with that as well. Know yourself, know your surroundings, know your buddy system, have the accountability, as RJ mentioned. And then the only thing that I'll add to that you mentioned yesterday is about technology. You guys have so many means to use technology via your Apple Watch, your smartphones, the apps that they have out there. Take advantage, and again, it can tell you what's going on with you real time, if you will. So make sure that health conscious technology that's available out there, apps and infrastructure and so forth, use it because it is at your disposal. A little bit more old school that I come from, just get out there and do it, but also learning to fuse some of the new generation as well with the technology that we have in order to make things better for ourselves.
Thank you. I love how you encouraged us to, know what's going on with your body. And to your point, even for the older generation, the faculty, knowing what levels in your body are low, knowing what things are high, they do affect us. They do even affect us in how we respond and how we are able to handle different situations. And so that's super key. Thank you for definitely sharing that. And I'm going to ask, do you have any last recommendations, be it for faculty, be it for grad students, that you would want to share with them when it comes to physically handling this anxiety, especially during midterms?
A simple one, breathe. When I was studying, I caught myself just holding my breath while I was studying. Take a few minutes, put it down, breathe. And I know I want to emphasize the health, wellness, physical, but I'm going to leave that to them.
That's okay because we overlap, this whole mindset and the scope. The only other thing I'll add as well is, don't be too prideful. If you need help, ask for help. Raise your hand. Go to the community center. Ask the faculty. Ask Sister Bolin. Reach out for help if you need it. If you have questions about anything, nothing is a dumb question. Nothing is a dumb situation. Ask for that help that you need.
Share with them one more time your fitness business and if they want to.
Oh, yeah, sure. So Turner Fitness, again, my hashtag is Turn Fitness into a Lifestyle. My name is Marcel Turner. If you guys have any questions concerning the exercises and nutrition plan and so forth, just let me know. Sister Bolin will have my contact information, but I'm here to serve the community and to serve you aside from daily activities. So I want the best for you.
And you want to share anything about?
If you're interested in contacting me, I do have social. It's RJ Holmes is my profile on Instagram. It's rj.holmes. And what you're gonna see on there is a combination of the clinical lab science work, and I'm actually coming up with a concept to incorporate laboratory diagnostics and the importance of it infused with functional medicine to kind of help more general physicians do more deep dive when it comes to laboratory testing. Since I have the background knowledge, it's important for me to make sure that we don't miss things because there are a lot of root cause disorders that we have that sometimes with general lab testing, you won't catch that. So again, I think that's important for us to be able to focus as best as we can. Those labs are everything for me. So that's my whole career has been about. So
awesome. All right. Thank you. Such wonderful advice on today and guidance. Marcel mentioned to reach out, not to be prideful, not to feel like you're in this alone. I love how RJ explained about having that circle. It doesn't need to be large. 2 or 3 good friends for that accountability and support. And I also, am a campus minister out of the A.D. Bruce Religion Center. We're going to talk to next a counselor from the Wellness Center. But your university does a really great job trying to support you. So we just need to know you need support, and we will be there. And so let's give a round of applause for our guest today. Thank you so much again. And we look forward to talking with both of you again. And I want you to just know that what you shared is going to be meaningful to this body of the campus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
All right. We're going to take a quick transition as we move into the soul portion. Thank you for joining InterVarsity's GFM Body, Soul, and Spirit Forum as we discuss anxiety and responsibility. Mark your calendars for October 21st and join us once again as we continue this discussion to help you deal with your anxiety and your responsibility. We're here to help, and it is our pleasure. See you then.